Hey, welcome to Caritas Querens. So, in a recent video that I uploaded, I got a comment from someone who said that they are a hopeful universalist, but still sometimes experience a paralyzing fear that they might be wrong. And they asked how I overcame that. So I was pondering, how to answer that question. I want to thank that the person who posted that. I think that's an awesome question, and really very brave of you to even post that and share that bit of your experience. But anyway, as I was thinking about how to respond, I started reflecting on my own experience. And so I kind of thought it might be easier if I just, instead of trying to fit it all into a short little comment, if I were to make just a series of brief videos retelling my own journey from into becoming a confident universalist. So this is the first of those videos, and in this video, I'm going to just try to briefly recount my background, first of all. So I'm not pretending that I have all the answers here, and I'm not, I don't believe that everybody's going to be able to completely relate to everything I have to say. But I'm hoping that maybe if you're interested in universalism as well, maybe you've experienced some of the same fears or anxieties or concerns that the other person has mentioned, and that certainly I've gone through myself. And maybe something I say will benefit you. Maybe you'll be able to relate somehow, or at least find some sympathy in realizing that you're not alone. So first off, a little bit about my background. I am currently a practicing Roman Catholic. So I am going to tell this from the perspective of a Catholic. Even if you're not a Catholic, I hope and I pray and I trust that still you might find some benefit from what I have to say. But I wasn't always a Catholic. In fact, I was raised in the United Church of Christ. And I would say from childhood, I don't remember exactly when I first believed in hell or believed in endless hell. But I know growing up, when I, as far back as I can remember, I believed that. I don't remember ever believing that everyone would get to heaven. In fact, I'll share a couple quick anecdotes with you, because I want you to see that it's not like from my youth onward that I just had some kind of like predisposition or inclination to believe that everyone will be saved. Quite the contrary. I remember, for instance, one time when I was, I guess in high school, probably like 16, 17, 18. So the congregation that I attended, which I'd been going to since I was a child, I was baptized there, raised in that congregation. A lot of the people I knew very well. And so we were having like a congregational meeting, which was just sort of like anybody can attend, and it was to talk about some of the major issues that were facing our congregation. We had them, I don't know if it was every year, maybe every 6 months or something like that. And there was one man there who I had known, again, since I was a little child, liked him very much, trusted him, and I don't remember how it came out, but at some point he made the comment that, what's the big deal about worrying about, trying to evangelize and worrying about people's eternal salvation. He said, we're all going to go to heaven anyway. And when I heard that, I was shocked. Like, not just shocked, I was scandalized. I was angry. In fact, I remember, even though I was just a teenager in high school, I spoke up, and I was kind of outraged, and I made a bit of a commotion. So, I mean, first of all, you can see there, I not only was I not disposed to believing in universal salvation, I was vehemently opposed to it. And that lasted for most of my life. In fact, I remember, again, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I was talking with an acquaintance of mine, and he's a Protestant minister. And, at first I didn't really have anything against him, but somehow we were having a conversation one day, and I don't know how it came up, but he said something to the effect that, I'm not really sure that anybody is going to suffer endlessly in hell. And I assumed that he was basically saying that he believed everyone would get to heaven. And so from that moment, I wrote him off. In my heart, I thought, this guy's a heretic. And he's probably not even, he's not a true Christian. He's probably not going to go to heaven unless he changes his views and changes his belief, and rejects his error. And I wrote him off. I didn't want to have anything to do with him. I thought he was just terrible. By the way, as a side note, it turned out later on, once I became interested in Universalism, I actually approached him and asked him about that. I reminded him of that conversation we had, and he didn't remember it. But and I thought he was going to come out and say like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Universalist," and we'd have a nice conversation. It turned out actually that he doesn't believe in Universalism. He was an annihilationist. So I totally got it wrong. But again, I mentioned that. In looking back, I repent of the way I responded in both of those situations, especially the second one because I was older. I should have known better, and I feel really bad that I wrote this guy off and judged him in my heart, and I didn't even get the facts straight. I didn't even know what he believed. But I mention these stories mostly just to show you and to state that for most of my life, I was not a Universalist. I was not sympathetic to Universalism, and in fact, I was extremely opposed to it. In fact, I would say that sort of one of the litmus tests that I would use of theologians or writers was to see what they taught about hell. In my mind, it was like, okay, the more fire and brimstone you are about hell, the more orthodox and the more sound is your Christianity. On the other hand, if you're kind of like wishy-washy about it, even if it's just that you don't talk about hell much and you focus a lot on the love of God and his mercy to all, you're kind of liberal and, maybe you're kind of a heretic or almost, like a semi-heretic or something, That was my view. Okay. So I'm saying this because first of all, just background, just to show you where I'm coming from. When I was in the UCC, I completely accepted the idea that there is hell, that it is eternal, that people most likely do go there. In fact, that most likely the majority of mankind goes there. And then when I became a Catholic in my early 20s, when I was in college, same thing. I just completely accepted that. I had no qualms about that whatsoever. All of that, however, began to change a couple years ago when I faced a crisis in my spiritual life. And I guess that's probably a good place to end this video because in the next one, I will talk about what I consider the first stage in my journey towards confident universalism. The stage in which I began to see some issues with what I believed and become disillusioned about it. So if you're interested, I appreciate if you would like and subscribe, share this with others you think might benefit from it. Leave some comments. I appreciate any feedback. You agree with me, you disagree with me, your own experience, your own thoughts on this, things I can improve, anything. Appreciate your feedback. And hopefully you'll tune in for the next part where I look at the first stage in my journey towards universalism when I did not even realize I was on the journey towards confident universalism, the stage of disillusionment. Until next time, adios.